Well, it's possible the FBI is working with Hunter Biden, but virtually everyone who tried to investigate the contents of that laptop has been under attack from DOJ. FARA violation, gun felony, influence peddling.
Have you ever given your father money from any of your business ventures?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing. Ever.
Oh, you lie. You lie.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
So the FBI has had physical possession of Hunter Biden's laptop for more than 3 years. Now, on that laptop is indisputable evidence of crimes: FARA violation, gun felony, influence peddling. And yet Hunter Biden, of course, has not been charged by federal authorities. He has not been raided either because he didn't pray in an abortion clinic. But virtually everyone who tried to investigate the contents of that laptop has been under attack from DOJ. For part 2 of our new documentary, Biden Inc., we looked into the Biden administration's efforts to crush this story. Nearly every one of the high-profile players involved in investigating Hunter Biden's business practices have since been arrested, indicted, or raided by federal law enforcement. Rudy Giuliani, who received the original copy of Hunter Biden's hard drive, had his home searched and personal electronic devices seized by the FBI. Steve Bannon, a former advisor to Donald Trump who first tried to place the Hunter Biden laptop story, was arrested and charged with fraud. The FBI executed a search warrant at the home of Victoria Tenzing, who'd worked with Ukrainians to uncover more information about Hunter Biden's business practices. Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, who helped Rudy Giuliani investigate Hunter Biden's business dealings, were both arrested on campaign finance charges in October 2019. By the way, Hunter Biden's whole life has been a monument to that message. Despite a decades-long drug problem and no record of legitimate achievement of any kind, Hunter Biden has managed to accumulate the highest possible academic credentials: Georgetown and Yale Law. Don't try that at home. As well as what appears to be millions and millions and millions of dollars. How did he do that? You couldn't do it, but then you're not Joe Biden's son, and that's how he did it. He cut business deals with corrupt countries that his father was conducting diplomacy in as vice president of the United States. And then we know from evidence that he apparently planned to kick back some of that money to his father as part of the deal, 10% for the big guy. Now that's completely illegal. And yet neither Hunter Biden nor his father, Joe Biden, have ever been indicted for doing that. Instead, and here's the best part, the real criminals, we learned yesterday, are the people who dared to talk about it. Yesterday, Hunter Biden's legal team released a letter demanding that Joe Biden's friends imprison anyone who criticizes Joe Biden's son. So these letters call on the Department of Justice, which Joe Biden controls, and Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings from Joe Biden's state to file criminal charges against Republicans who dared to possess and share the contents of his son's now famous laptop. And that list would include, among others, John Paul McIsaac, the owner of the Mac repair shop where Hunter Biden abandoned said laptop. According to Hunter Biden's high-paid lawyers, John Paul McIsaac should be in prison for doing this. Quote, Mr. McIsaac chose to work with Donald Trump's personal lawyer to weaponize Mr. Biden's personal computer data against his father, Joseph R. Biden. In other words, John Paul McIsaac didn't want Joe Biden to become president, and apparently that's now a federal crime. But wait a second, back up a second. Does that mean we can now say with certainty that the laptop is real? If we can say that, that means that Adam Schiff, who's now running for Senate in California, had better issue a statement pronto correcting his previous categorical claims about the laptop. Here was Adam Schiff in October of 2020 when he chaired the House Intelligence Committee.
Does it surprise you at all that this information Rudy Giuliani is peddling very well could be connected to some sort of Russian government disinformation campaign?
Well, we know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin. That's been clear for well over a year now that they've been pushing this false narrative about the vice president and his son.
We know this comes from the Kremlin, Adam Schiff said. And of course, Adam Schiff would know since he, unlike you, had access to top secret information. You weren't allowed to see it. He did see it, and on the basis of that knowledge told you it was from the Kremlin. And it's exactly what dozens of former intel officials told you. They saw the evidence, and this was from Russia. So now it looks like they were all lying. According to Hunter Biden's lawyers, quote, Mr. McIsaac unlawfully shared Mr. Biden's property with third parties. His property, he owned it, it was his. Yes, the laptop, according to Hunter Biden's lawyers, belonged to Hunter Biden. It did not come from the Kremlin. That's settled. Except, wait, no, it's not settled. Because today we got yet another statement from Hunter Biden's lawyers, and they seem to revise the first statement. Here's today's statement, and we're quoting. These letters do not confirm McIsaac's or others' versions of a so-called laptop. They address their conduct of seeking, manipulating, and disseminating what they allege to be Mr. Biden's personal data wherever they claim to have gotten it. So in other words, we believe the government should send these people to jail for possessing stolen property that belonged to Hunter Biden, but that so-called property may not actually exist and may not even belong to Hunter Biden. That's their argument. It's a novel legal theory, actually. In fact, it's so novel, it's totally incoherent. It's like prosecuting somebody for stealing your imaginary car. But even if we can agree that the laptop is real and not a deep fake produced by some diabolical Russian AI program, and again, neither Hunter Biden nor his lawyers have conceded that yet, maybe they will tomorrow, but even if we could all agree on that, there is another more fundamental problem, and it's this. Hunter Biden signed an agreement acknowledging that if he left his device at John Paul McIsaac's repair shop in Delaware for more than 90 days, if he didn't pick it up, he would forfeit ownership of it. He wrote that. No one disputes that he did. And then Hunter Biden violated the contract that he signed. And he violated it because he was a crackhead who was having an affair with his sister-in-law, at least 3 of his employees, and countless strippers and hookers, while at the same time trying to execute on illicit business deals with the Chinese. So he just didn't have time to return for his laptops. That makes sense. He was very busy. John Paul McIsaac, meanwhile, being the small business owner, called Hunter Biden again and again and tried to give the laptop back. But Hunter Biden was so busy, he ignored John Paul McIsaac. Watch.
He sort of disappears on you. So he disappears and never comes for that external hard drive that now maintains the data?
So now I'm in possession of his laptop, a backup of his laptop's home folder on an external drive that he provided, and no sign of Hunter. I think I called him again the following weekend or right before the end of the month. I always call customers at the end of the month to collect on out of delinquent bills. And then I think I called him a couple more times over the next month after that. So just no response.
Kept calling him. He was smoking too much crack with too many hookers. He didn't call me back. That was John Paul McIsaac's explanation. So it's kind of hard to blame John Paul McIsaac for this. He tried his best to return the laptop. And yet they are blaming him. In fact, Hunter Biden is demanding the Delaware Attorney General, Kathy Jennings, put that guy, John Paul McIsaac, in jail for what he did. On what grounds? Hunter Biden is the president's son. If he smokes too much crack to follow the terms of the contract he signed, that's not his problem. It's yours. Now, in a normal country, a normal prosecutor would laugh at an argument like that. But Hunter Biden is betting that Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings will take that argument very seriously, and he has reason to believe that she will. Because Kathy Jennings is not just the Attorney General, she is a longtime party hack ideologue who can be counted on to faithfully do the bidding of Democratic leaders and donors. And even better than that, Kathy Jennings is a longtime friend of the Biden family. In fact, she once worked for Hunter Biden's brother, Beau Biden, and she worships his father, Joe. We're not guessing. Here's a Facebook post from the now Attorney General of Delaware, Kathy Jennings, dated April 25th, 2019. We're quoting, "I've known Joe, Jill, and the Biden family for most of my life. Joe is one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever known. Democrats are blessed with many excellent candidates this year, and I am proud of those choices and what they say about our party. I'm choosing Joe because nobody understands more what it means to heal, and right now, that's what America needs." Well, right now, the Biden family needs something very different, and Kathy Jennings may be willing to provide it. Again, this is the person that Hunter Biden's lawyers are calling on to send John Paul McIsaac to jail, and she very well may send him there. Doesn't seem like a fair fight, really. So here you have John Paul McIsaac, a small business owner who lives in a small, corrupt state controlled by the Biden family. He's the peasant in this scenario. And then you have Hunter Biden is the princeling. So with no obvious means of support, Hunter Biden has been living in a $20,000 a month spread in Malibu and can somehow, can someone tell us how, afford a team of the most expensive attorneys in the United States of America. How is he doing that? We don't know. We can say one of these guys has a strong advantage in this battle, and it's not the little guy. And on that laptop, she found a remarkable email, an email the Justice Department has never shown to the public, despite the fact its agents have had it for years. And the document that Miranda Devine found indicates that Hunter Biden had classified information in his possession. Almost certainly that came from his father, then the vice president, and that he used that information to make piles of money for the Biden family while working at a fake job in Ukraine. That's what it shows. So if there's an actual scandal at the core of this classified document story, here it is. So here are the details. On April 13th, 2014, Hunter Biden sent an email to his business partner at Burisma, Devon Archer. Now, he sent this a week before his father, the vice president, flew to Ukraine to meet with Ukraine's prime minister. In the email, Hunter Biden composed a detailed memo with nearly 24 data points about the political and strategic situation on the ground in Ukraine. What's so immediately striking, and Miranda Devine pointed this out, having read the entire laptop, is that this email bears no resemblance to anything else we have that Hunter Biden has ever written. In fact, it sounded like something produced by the State Department. There's no question that Hunter Biden used classified materials to assemble this email. Listen carefully. Quote, "The strategic value is to create a land bridge for RU to Crimea," he writes at one point. Notice he uses the diplomatic abbreviation for Russia, RU, because he's in the know. Quote, "That won't directly affect Burisma Holdings, but it will limit future UK exploration and utilization of offshore opportunities in particular. It will also," Hunter Biden added, quote, "further destabilize the UK nationally and for whatever government is in power, and the US will respond with even stronger sanctions. Those sanctions will threaten the tenuous support of the EU, which does not have the political will to incur steep energy price increases," and so on. Now, keep in mind, if you're wondering, is this plausible? Keep in mind that when he wrote this email, Hunter Biden was an active drug addict. Just 2 months before he wrote this, 2 months, in February of 2014, he'd been thrown out of the Navy for cocaine use. He couldn't even stay sober long enough to pass a scheduled drug test. He was completely out of control. Yet somehow, in that state, in this email, Hunter Biden managed to sound like a seasoned Ukraine hand from Foggy Bottom, referring to Russia as RU and all the rest. And critically, he seemed to know for a fact the details of American diplomatic strategy in the region. The U.S. will respond with even stronger sanctions. How did Hunter Biden know that? Oh, come on. Come on. Keep in mind that when Mike Flynn mentioned the topic of sanctions to the ambassador from Russia, the FBI swooped in and destroyed his life and threatened to send him to prison. And he was the national security advisor at the time. He had the highest possible clearances you could have. Hunter Biden had no clearances whatsoever. He was the drug addict son of the vice president. And here he is in this email casually mentioning to his business partner that sanctions may be coming, and here are the effects on the EU and energy prices, in order to keep making 80 grand a month in a no-show job on the board of Ukrainian energy company, working on a topic he knew nothing about. So what are we looking at here? What we're looking at is a crime. That's a crime. A real one. Hunter Biden clearly knew it was a crime. He told his business partner in the same email to go to CVS and buy a, quote, burner phone to make sure their conversations were not seen by anyone else. Now, what's amazing and so telling is that the DOJ has had this for years because the FBI seized Hunter Biden's laptop before the last presidential election in 2020. Keep in mind also the context, and the context is always Ukraine. That was true in 2014. It's true in 2023. Back in 2015, Ukraine's top prosecutor, Viktor Slokin, began investigating Burisma and wondering, why is it paying the vice president's son tens of thousands of dollars a month? So how did Joe Biden respond? Well, within a year, Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States, had Slokin fired by threatening to withhold U.S. aid money to Ukraine. We're not making this up. Here's the tape.
I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, what, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Arrogance is his weakness. Can you imagine bragging about that? Joe Biden, in front of the Council on Foreign Relations, on camera, just admitted he had the prosecutor fired because the prosecutor was doing what our Department of Justice would not do. He wanted the vice president's son investigated for trading classified information to this business for cash. And Joe Biden just admitted that he acted on behalf of the U.S. government, but actually on behalf of his family. That's a crime. Hunter Biden had access to classified documents. That's a crime. And here he is bragging about it. Hubris is always their undoing. So this really is the scandal right there. It's about Ukraine, and it's about the Biden family's stream of income, which was illegitimate. So we put in a very simple request today to the White House and to Hunter Biden. Simple question. Did Hunter Biden ever receive in any form U.S. government classified information about Ukraine? Period. Simple question. Did this happen or did it not happen? Of course, they didn't respond because the answer, very obviously, we know thanks to the reporting of Miranda Devine, is yes. Well, as you know, if you've been following this story at all, the FBI has been in possession of Hunter Biden's laptop for years now, even if they've arrested over 1,000 and 1,000 more to go, people who walked through the Capitol on January 6th. But in the case of the president's son, they've done nothing with it at all, no indictments, even though, as you also know, there is evidence of felonies on that laptop. So what is this about? Well, it's possible the FBI is working with Hunter Biden. The New York Post now reporting that Hunter Biden had an FBI mole called One Eye, and this mole tipped off Hunter Biden's Chinese business partners that they were under investigation. That is according to an Israeli energy expert who was arrested last month in Cyprus on gun running charges. And it looks like he may be innocent. Say what you will about elected Democrats, but they know where the power is. They're like truffle pigs for power. No matter how thick the forest is, they will find it. Here's one example. In his very first hours in office, literally on Inauguration Day, Joe Biden named a new head of the criminal division at the Justice Department. Now, Biden spent that same day, you will remember, lecturing the rest of us about equity, meaning that straight white men are bad. And yet, strangely, the person he chose for this job was not a member of a racial or sexual minority. He was instead a highly privileged straight white guy. He was called Nick McQuaid. Nick McQuaid went to private schools, he rode at Wesleyan, he went to Columbia for law school. He was definitely not oppressed, but that did not matter to Joe Biden. Some jobs are too important for affirmative action. McQuaid's main qualification was being the former law partner of Hunter Biden's criminal attorney. In December of 2020, Hunter Biden hired a Latham & Watkins lawyer called Chris Clark to defend him against potential federal tax charges. Just a month later, Hunter Biden's dad hired Chris Clark's partner, Nick McQuaid, to oversee the agency that could bring those federal tax charges. That seems like an obvious and glaring conflict, but no, Nick McQuaid did not recuse himself from the Hunter Biden investigation. And so, more than 2 years later, not surprisingly, no charges have been brought against Hunter Biden. And it's not for lack of evidence. For years now, the FBI has had possession of Hunter Biden's laptop. On that laptop, as you know, is a detailed account of how the Biden family made millions of dollars from foreign governments selling access to the U.S. government through Joe Biden. So the question is, among many, did Hunter Biden pay federal taxes on all of that dough? What do you think? This is a guy who left a crack pipe and his driver's license in a rental car because he was too high to put them back into his pocket. Did he pay all his federal taxes? Let's just say Hunter Biden does not fit the profile of a faithful taxpayer. But he is the president's son. And that's why when he was asked about the criminal investigation into his taxes 2 years ago, he didn't seem that worried. Watch.
At the end of last year, Biden acknowledged an ongoing investigation by federal authorities for potential tax law violations. Is your legal team working on any kind of a plea deal?
Oh, no. I am absolutely certain that what we're doing is being completely cooperative with whoever is asking from any authority whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. The implication all through the campaign was that your efforts had somehow benefited your father financially. Have you ever given your father money from any of your business ventures?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing. Ever.
Not a nickel?
Not a nickel.
Directly or indirectly?
Directly or indirectly. Not a nickel ever. 100%. No. Never.
Oh, you lie. You lie. That was 2 years ago. Weirdly, we haven't heard a lot about the federal tax investigation into Hunter Biden since. And that is strange if you think about it, since we now have tens of thousands of new IRS agents to enforce tax law. And in fact, it wasn't that long ago that the Biden Justice Department, remember this? Indicted Donald Trump's 75-year-old accountant because he failed to declare the full value of his work vehicle. I think he was in handcuffs. But somehow these same enforcers of the law cannot be bothered to bring the Hunter Biden investigation to fruition, not when they have a laptop proving that he took millions from the government of China. How does that work exactly? Did he pay every dollar in federal taxes? Did he fully declare the value of his work vehicle or of his crack? What about the Russian hookers? By the way, at the same time, DOJ doesn't seem interested at all in the fact that Hunter Biden lied on a federal gun form. Go ahead and try that yourself at home. It's a felony. You'll go to jail. But Hunter Biden is not in jail. He's making art in his garden in LA. Is what we're seeing what it looks like? Well, we can finally answer that question, thanks to a career special agent at the IRS who's decided to blow the whistle on the corruption in the Biden administration. This whistleblower has just informed Congress that he has proof that the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, lied under oath about the Hunter Biden investigation. That's a felony. So the Attorney General of the United States committed a felony, according to this whistleblower, who also says he has seen, quote, preferential treatment and politics improperly infecting decisions and protocols throughout the agency, and that these changes in standard protocol were designed to, quote, benefit the politically connected. So what we've learned here is exactly what you suspected all along. The Biden people are criminals. Watch.
My client wants to come forward to Congress. He's ready to be questioned about what he knows and what he experienced under the proper legal protections.
Attorney Mark Lytle's client is a supervisory special agent at the IRS who's prepared to tell Congress the investigation he's been working on has been hampered by what he thinks is special treatment.
Typical steps that a law enforcement investigator would take were compromised because of political considerations.
CBS News has learned the investigation the whistleblower worked on is about Hunter Biden. Lytle told us the whistleblower has been with the IRS for more than a decade and has extensive documentation to support his allegations.
The things he's been through are very well documented in emails and other communications with the Department of Justice,
including proof that our sleazeball Attorney General, whose presence in that job is an offense against the law and tradition of this country, lied under oath of felony. So this is not a small story. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about all of this today at the White House. Why is the Department of Justice sending working-class grandmothers to prison for walking around the Capitol, the People's House, while they bury criminal investigations into the president's son?
And secondly, the president invited his son Hunter to the state dinner last night. I'm wondering if you could take us into the thinking and the decision-making of why the president decided to invite his son.
I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion. As you know, Hunter is his son. I'm just not going to get into it.
Let me ask you this. If Hunter Biden wasn't the president's son, would he have invited someone who had just reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors 2 days earlier?
A couple of things. Again, that's his son. He's a family member. It is not uncommon for family members to attend events at the White House. You could look at past presidents. I'm sure you have. So that is not uncommon. As it relates to anything related to Hunter, I'm just not going to respond to it from here.
You've stated that the president stands by his comment from the 2020 campaign that he never once discussed his son's overseas business dealings with his son. and you stood at that podium and you reaffirmed that. Do you stand by your reaffirmation?
What I will say is nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, and I will leave it there. Anything else, I will refer you to the White House counsel.
This is not a change?
I just answered the question. You just asked me, does my statement change? I just told you nothing has changed. That's answering the question.
That after the plea agreement was reached by Hunter Biden, that the president felt relieved that that part of it was behind him. Is that true? Can you speak
I can't
to
speak to that. I cannot speak to the president's mindset. Again, I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
Presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
So what he really wanted to do was paint, it turned out, and now he is. Hunter Biden is selling his paintings, and they're so good, they're so unbelievable, that people are paying up to $500,000 to buy just one. There are private galleries in New York and LA. According to the Washington Post, the White House is helping him. They're his art dealer now. They helped Hunter Biden reach a deal to hide the identities of the people who bought those paintings. That doesn't sound corrupt or anything. Miranda Devine has reported extensively on the Biden family's business dealings. She's a columnist at the Washington Post. We're happy to have her now. So the White House is helping the first son keep his art, he's now an artist, has been for the last couple weeks, keep his $500,000 art transactions secret? That just seems like flagrant corruption to me.
Hi, Tucker. I just wanted to say first that, express solidarity for you with these NSA spying problems. I think every journalist in the country should be up in arms. It's absolutely outrageous. So almost as outrageous as Hunter Biden's little art scam that the White House is trying to cover up for him. It's crazy that they think that somehow making the transactions less transparent, keeping secret the buyers of Hunter Biden's paintings and their countries of origin, somehow that is going to solve the problem that someone might be buying access to the White House by spending $500,000 on one of his paintings. It's crazy, but at least, the good thing is that the White House is talking about ethics now. It's only been 9 months since the New York Post broke the story about Hunter Biden's laptops and all the ethical, at least, infringements that are apparent there and that we've been reporting on. But it sort of beggars belief that the White House thinks that they can just smoothly go along and, in effect, outsource their ethics policy to some Manhattan art dealer mate of Hunter's, who is supposed to somehow vet these buyers. Like somehow he knows whether the Chinese guy is a member of the high-ranking member of the Chinese Communist Party, or the Russian is associated with the former corrupt mayor of Moscow, or some Ukrainian energy corrupt oligarch. How does he know? He's not a foreign policy expert or an intelligence operative. So that's nuts in itself. But the other thing that's mad is that they have, Hunter and his mate have decided that they're going to set the prices of these paintings, and they've put them, as we said, at $500,000, which is outrageous for a first-time painter. As beautiful as Hunter's art is, there was a Picasso that was sold this week. It was uncovered in a closet in Maine where it had been sitting for 30 years. That went for $150,000, and Hunter wants 3 times that. So don't think it works.
Well, the FBI doesn't seem to have made a lot of progress figuring out how the Biden family made all that money from foreign governments and was it legal or not. But Congressman Jamie Comer of Kentucky, has been looking into it as a new committee chairman, and he found that Hallie Biden, the widow of Beau Biden, Hunter Biden's ex-girlfriend, received a $35,000 cut of a $3 million payout from China. It was part of a deal that Hunter Biden made, associate of Hunter Biden made, with a Chinese state energy company. Hunter Biden's legal team came out with a statement today and said, quote, Hunter is a private citizen with every right to pursue his own business endeavors, joined several business partners in seeking a joint venture with a privately owned legitimate energy company in China. So that's his attorney's position.
Biden, did you spend Christmas with your father this year? Are you going to spend New Year's with your father this year, Mr. Biden?
All right, police department.
Are you happy with the impeachment of Donald Trump? Any words on that?
Yeah, Hunter was recently found with his pregnant wife strolling through the Grove over there in Los Angeles. The Bidens are currently renting a $3.8 million home in the Hollywood Hills, pretty swanky neighborhood, all while he continues to fight paying child support to a woman that he met at a strip club where he allegedly smoked crack cocaine. Tucker, what do you think Hunter's like? Do you have any idea what he's like?
What he's like personally?
Yeah.
I know him well. He was my neighbor. He's a really nice guy. I've always liked him. He's a really troubled guy who had a great family, and then it blew up. He left, and now he's lost and hunted, and like all political refugees, he's wound up in the Hollywood Hills. He's like a lot of people I know in Washington. Totally good guy. Love to have dinner with him. I still like Hunter Biden. But he's a beneficiary of a system that's like completely corrupt. And it's so corrupt and it's so ubiquitous here that nobody even notices. It's like, of course he's making, whatever, $1 million a year from some Ukrainian energy company. Like, he's a symptom, not a cause.
Do you feel any sympathy towards him, or do you feel like he has any responsibility in this at all? Or is, this is the part of the swamp. People get these gigs and, they get second, third, fourth chances if you're related to a VP.
I feel deep sympathy for him, only because I could name off the top of my head 25 other people who are abusing our system more successfully. I just saw a bunch of them at lunch today. So yes, that's what this city is. It's a place where people leverage their connections, in his case, his DNA, in order to make a pretty good living while the rest of the country declines. So yeah, I mean, I'm sympathetic because, like, if his dad wasn't running for president, we wouldn't have heard of all of this. But I'm deeply offended by what he was allowed to do, because that's what people do here.